Good morning, and Gemar Chasima Tova. Wishing everyone a sweet, happy, healthy year filled with Nachas, Bracha, Simcha, and Besoros Tovos. Mirz Hashem. Hopefully, our tefillas will be answered for good news and the hostages home and our soldiers safe. Our Parsha series is generously sponsored by Becky and Avi Katz and family in memory of David Grossman, Leili Nishmas, David Ben Menachem Monish. Very grateful to their continued generosity. And this morning's shir, also sponsored in memory of my wonderful aunt, my Aunt Malki Lazar, Esther Malka Bas Yenta Rachel, whose yahrzeit is Erev Yom Kippur. Very special woman, a big influence on all of our lives, our family, and her neshama should have an aliyah. Okay, Parshas Ha'azinu. I know it's already Erev Yom Kippur. We're having a Emunah Shir tomorrow morning, Mamish on Erev Yom Kippur. Tanya Shir, Emunah Shir. What else is there to do on Erev Yom Kippur than learn Torah and collect as many schuyos and merits as we can? So if you have a better thing to do, I don't know what it is. You can't claim you're cooking for Yom Kippur, so you might as well come and learn Torah. So glad that you're here this morning learning with us Parshas Ha'azinu. It shouldn't be a neglected Parsha. Nebuch Parshas Ha'azinu shouldn't be an orphan Parsha, neglected Parsha, because it's between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. So Ha'azinu is on page 1100 in the Art Scroll Stone, Chumash Perek Lamed Beis, chapter 32, Pasuk Aleph. And we begin from the beginning. Before we even get into the Parsha itself, I want to begin with Rabbi Sachs's introduction. I believe the Chumash that I got the pre-published edition, I think is out now. Anyone buy it? It's available? Fantastic. It is wonderful, as you've seen, and I'm honored and proud and grateful to be able to promote it. So Rabbi Sachs says in the introduction to Parshas Ha'azinu, you'll notice the layout of Ha'azinu is different than the rest of Torah. The rest of Torah is written in columns, and this is written separately. It's written as a poem, not a complete column, but a broken column, two columns side by side. And it's called the song Shiras Ha'azinu, the song of Ha'azinu, which itself is a question. It has many peculiar aspects, negative themes that wouldn't necessarily characterize it. We wouldn't necessarily qualify it as a song, and yet that is how our rabbis saw it. So Rabbi Sachs writes in his introduction the following. For a month, Moshe has taught the people. He's told them their history and destiny and the laws that will make theirs a unique society of people bound in covenant and with one another and with God. He has renewed the covenant and then handed the leadership on to his successor and disciple Yehoshua. His final act will be blessing the people tribe by tribe. But before doing that, there's one more thing that he must do. He must sum up his prophetic message in a way the people will always remember and be inspired by. He knows that the best way of doing so is in music. So the last thing Moshe does before giving the people his deathbed blessing is to teach them a song. Now the image is very powerful. Moshe is the last day of his life. And most people don't know when or which will be the last day of their life. Moshe, for good or bad, does. And he doesn't use the last day of his life for the last meal. What does he want to eat? What's going to be the last food? He doesn't use it to go tour. Where does he want to go? Where did he always want to see? He doesn't use it to retreat to his last round of golf or last game of poker, last game of bridge, last bottle of wine. Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu instead uses it to be a blessing, to offer a blessing, to give a bracha, tribe by tribe. His enduring legacy, the way he wants to go out, is the way he lived his life, which is to be a source of influence, of inspiration, a resource for everyone else to give a blessing. But he does, so Rabbi Sachs points out, before he leaves this world with a bracha, he first teaches a song. Jewish history is not so much read as sung. Every day in Judaism, we preface our morning prayers with Psuke de Zimra. The first section of our davening, Birchas HaShachar, technically are said at home. We begin davening at shul with Birchas HaShachar. Some of you are looking at me funny because you're not necessarily there that early. There's something in shul we begin every day called Birchas HaShachar. But it could be said at home. The technical beginning of davening at shul is Psuke de Zimra, the verses of song, with their magnificent crescendo, which is Tehillim Kuf Nun, in which instruments and the human voice combine to sing God's praises. Mystics go further and speak of the song of the universe, what Pythagoras called the music of the spheres. This is what Tehillim Yotes means when it says, Hashamayim Mesaprim Kvod Kel, the heavens tell the glory of God. There's no speech, there are no words, their voice is not heard yet, their music carries across the land, their words to the end of the earth. Beneath the silence, audible only to the inner ear, creation sings to its creator. If we were able to actually disconnect and turn down the noise, always having AirPods in our ears, always being connected, scrolling, typing to some device, always in conversation, music, a podcast, news. But if you could turn down the noise, you'll hear the universe is singing the song of its creator. Who hears this song? So the prophet, the Kohen, thinks in terms of universal rules that are eternally valid. The Navi is attuned to the particularities of a given situation and the relationship between those involved. The prophet is emotional intelligence. He or she hears the silent cry of the oppressed, the incipient anger of heaven. The vehicle of biblical prophecy is not prose, but poetry, language that engages the senses and the unconscious memory through its music. This is what Rabbi Soloveitchik described as the Torah of his mother. From his mother, he said, this was Rabbi Soloveitchik describing his mother, I learned that Judaism expresses itself not only in formal compliance with the law, but in a living experience. She taught me there's flavor, a scent, a warmth to mitzvos. I learned from her the most important thing in life, to feel the presence of the Almighty and the gentle pressure of his hand resting upon my frail shoulders. Without her teachings, which quite often were transmitted to me in silence, I would have grown up a soulless being, dry and insensitive. This was Rav Soloveitchik in the tribute to the Tolna, the Rebbetzin of Tolna, his Machatenista. He spoke about his mother. And though the majority of Rav Soloveitchik's Torah learning, he was autodidactic, he didn't go to yeshiva. His father pulled him out early from his Chabad Malamed, who was teaching him a lot of Tanya, but not a lot of Mishnah and Gemara. So his father pulled him out and taught him at home. And though his father taught him the majority of his education, formal education, came from his father, he describes that without her, without his mother, he would have grown up a soulless being, dry and insensitive. At the very end of his life, the greatest of all the prophets turned to the emotional intelligence, to the spirituality of song, knowing that unless he does so, his teachings might enter the minds of the Jewish people, but not their hearts, their passions, their emotional DNA. It is feeling that moves us to act, gives us the energy to aspire, and fuel our ability to hand on our commitments to those who come after. So, as Robert Frost said, concludes Rabbi Sachs, poetry is what is lost in translation, and faith is poetry, not prose. So Hazinu is a song, it's Shira. Faith is a song. It's poetry, not prose. This is a song. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, before I leave this world, I need to teach you a song. And that song is Shiras Hazinu. And we just read this past Shabbos as well. Because the last mitzvah in the Torah, the 613th mitzvah in the Torah, is the mitzvah of V'ata kisvu lachem es hashira hazos. And now write this song. The mitzvah to either write or commission the writing of a Sefer Torah is formulated as write a song, Hashira. Why is Torah called the song? So all the reasons Rabbi Sachs just described of what it does to us emotionally, how it moves us, it transports us, it connects us, it opens us up. Rabbi Soloveitchik also describes it. He said, if two people are speaking at once, you have static, you can't hear. They're conflicting. But if two people are singing, you have harmony. If two people are singing, it's beautiful music. Torah is not when there are two voices that you have conflict or static. The Torah is as such that when you have two perspectives and two opinions, two interpretations, two voices of Torah, it's a beautiful symphony. It's beautiful harmony. That's what Torah does. That's how Torah works. And therefore, it's Kisvu Lachem es Hashira Hazos. The mitzvah is formulated as writing a song. Torah is called the song. Shiras Hazinu is a song. Moshe Rabbeinu, before he leaves this world, wants to teach us a song. So he begins this song, Hazinu Hashemayim va'adabera, v'sishma ha'aretz imrefi. Give ear, O heavens, and I will speak, and may the earth hear the words of my mouth. And we go back to Rav Druk, unfinished Rav Druk, in his Eish Tamin. And he says the following, Yesh ladaktek ma hevdal ben lashon ha'azana, shenemar itzel Hashemayim, uben lashon shmiya, hanemar itzel ha'aretz. It's very poetic. It's very beautiful. Ha'azinu, hear, heavens, and I'll speak, and listen, earth, to what comes out of my mouth. But why use two different verbs? Ha'azinu, v'sishma. Two synonyms, two verbs that both describe listening or hearing. Is there a difference between them? One is directed to the heavens, ha'azinu, and the other is directed to the aretz, to the earth, and that's v'sishma. Why is there a difference? Is there a difference between them? Yesh ledaktek. What's the difference? Nir lomer ki yesh hevda mahusi ben hazan l'shmiya. Says Rav Druk, there is a fundamental difference. Ein elu rak milim nifrat nirdafos. Ela hazana perusha lo rak sheshomeas advarim, ela mekabel osam ad kedei kach shemetargem osam lamaisa. Shmiya is an external hearing. Shmiya is aha, aha. You know the person who is doing something while you're talking to them? Aha, yeah, aha. It's sort of penetrating, yeah. And they say, you're not listening to me. I am listening to you. You went to the mall, you found the sale, and you can't believe you ran into... Okay, you repeat back exactly what I said, but you weren't listening to me. You weren't hearing me. Ha'azana, ha'azinu, is a listening that actually becomes action, is transformed into action. They enter through the ear, and it penetrates into the person so that they're moved. Masha'en ken shmiya. Shmiya is, it just stays at the surface, it's superficial. Achein shamas advarim bevinam. It's hearing and understanding. Sometimes you hear something superficially, and sometimes you listen to something so closely. You listen in such a way that it transforms, changes you, your action, your behavior, your life, your lifestyle. Hazinu hashamayim hashamayim Elohim ha'anashim shegidola ma'alasam ad shmei shamim maram ma'ala. Etzlam nofel lashon hazana. Kiem yashmim es advarim sheim shomim. So the higher level listening, ha'azinu, is used for shemayim. Shemayim are the righteous. Shemayim are the disciplined. Shemayim are the people who live highly regulated lives. They're sovereign over themselves. Shemayim are the people we look up to. So why do we look up to them? What makes them exceptional? What elevates them is their capacity for ha'azinu. They don't just listen, but they listen. They listen in a way that moves them. They listen in a way that changes them. V'tishma ha'aretz, eleim anashim apshutim, ha'artziyim sheshomes advar ma'achlo tamid mekayimim metargim l'maisa as ma sheshomu aznayim. So v'tishma ha'aretz, the artzias is the land, the lowly, the physical. So the lowly people, they sort of listen, half an ear. They're listening while doing something else. They're listening, but it applies to their neighbor. It doesn't change them. So they are sishma. It's good that they're listening, but it's a low-level listening. So that's how Rav Druk, number one, distinguishes between the two levels of listening, hazinu and v'sishma. It depends, are you a person of shamayim, or are you a person of ha'aretz? The Or Chaim HaKadosh, we've quoted this before. Or Chaim HaKadosh understands a little bit differently. Hazinu Hashamayim. Hashamayim represents the spirituality in us, the soul in us, the Shamayim, the heaven in us. Hazinu, pay attention. The best part of you, the spiritually attuned part of you, the antenna, listen up, pick up the signal, and then v'sishma ha'aretz. If you are nourishing your soul, then your body will follow. But if you're neglecting your soul, you're not speaking to your soul is not listening, it's not attuned, your soul is not picking up the frequency, then your whole body and your whole being won't hear and won't follow either. Rav Druk has a second interpretation. He quotes the Sifri. Gedol hashir hazu sheyesh ba'achshav v'yesh ba l'sha'avar v'yesh ba l'sa'asad lavo v'yesh ba ba'olam hazeh v'yesh ba l'olam haba. You know, says the Sifri, what makes this great? You know what it makes it great? Why is it called a shira? What is such a song about this pasuk, about this parsha? Says the Sifri, you know what makes it great? Because this song references three different dimensions: past, present, and future. This world and the world to come. Says Rav Druk, Mavur shakol nechlal b'shir zu, kalavayas ha'olam hazeh la'asad lava olam lo lechinim yeshkasu kol mitzvahs k'zis sefer Torah rak mishum k'siv hashir zu. Some say the whole mitzvah ba'atem kisvu lachem es hashir hazos, the mitzvah I referenced of last week's parsha, mitzvah number 613, to write the song, is really to write hazinu. The whole reason there's a mitzvah to write the whole Torah is to write hazinu. And why is it important to write hazinu? Because a Yid, a Jew, has to remember the past, the present, and the future. Without the past, there is no present. And without the future, there's no present. And the present is all to build and lead and keep an eye towards our responsibility for the future. A Jew lives in all three dimensions at once, simultaneously. We're not stuck or lost in the past, and we're not worried and waiting for the future. Of course, we fully embrace and live in the present, but we do so. It is a present that draws from the past and a present that anticipates a future. And that's what makes this shira, says the Sifri, Gedola Shirazu. It makes a mitzvah for all of us to write and pay attention and listen and learn. And that's why we have the Parsha class. It's not terribly convenient. There's a lot going on, a lot of preparation for Yom Kippur. But Hazina, this song, it deserves to be front and center, not neglected, because this is all about our past, our present, and our future. Yisod Advar Nir Lomar, Ki Shorish Kamahusa Shal Shira Kulu Lomar Lano Davar Echad. Kodesh Baruch Hu Medaber Elenu B'chol Makom U'B'chol Pina. What this song is singing to us is, don't think, when was Judaism and Torah relevant? That's in the past. Oh, that's part of the past. But the present, it's not relevant. It's relevant. It speaks to us. It's contemporary. It's meaningful today. You don't think it's relevant and meaningful today? There are so many parts of yesterday's press conference. But how about when the president insisted on calling it the Avraham Accords? He got close, and then Bibi took him all the way there. The Abraham Accords and the Avraham Accords. How about the prime minister who ends with Gemar Chatima Tova? It's amazing. The Torah was relevant not only then, it is today. It's what molds us and defines us. It's who we are. It's what our lives are about. And we only have a future when we're committed to live it and take it with us into tomorrow. Into tomorrow. So an article this morning, my brother-in-law's father is a federal judge in New York. Apparently, Nebuch just sentenced some woman in a high-profile case to several years in prison. But the article opens, it was on abcnews.com, and apparently he began his sentence by saying that the Bible records the obligation of honest weights and measures, and your weights and measures were not honest. They were not calibrated. And therefore, even though you're a good person who made a mistake, I have no choice but to sentence you. And if you know him, it's not surprising, but you got to love the Bible. He's offering his sentence by invoking the Bible. The Torah says, Torah is not about yesterday. Honest weights and measures aren't about the past. That's the driver of justice today. The driver of justice today, what calibrates our compass of justice today, is still our sacred Torah. So says Rav Druk, the Sifri is calling Gedola Shirazu. This song is so great because it has elements of past, present, and future. And we need to know that it's relevant. And not only relevant, it informs, it inspires, it binds us, no matter where or when. The Torah is Hashem's mouthpiece. Through it, He's talking to us wherever we live. I don't care where you are in the world. It wasn't only relevant when we were in Yerushalayim with the Beis HaMikdash. Even Nebuch and diaspora scattered around the world, the Torah remains as relevant, more relevant than ever. Maybe arguably the only way, in fact, to survive and navigate that gullus. It was a beautiful siyum this past Sunday night, our amazing Amud Shvui program. It's a group of men who get together once a week. The Daf Yomi does a whole daf every day. They do an Amud once a week. So you'll say, how much ground are you going to cover? This is the 6th siyum that they've made. 6 mesechtas. Some have never opened a Gemara before. Mazdov to Colin and all those who were there that night. So I had the privilege to offer some divrei bracha. And I said on last week's Parsha, we didn't have a Parsha shir last week, last week's Parsha, we were all otherwise occupied with hearing the shofar. Last Tuesday was Rosh Hashanah. So last week's Parsha, this mitzvah, V'yata kisvu lachem es hashir azos, comes immediately after a pasuk. What's the pasuk right before? V'anochi aster astir, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to hide my face. V'anochi haster astir panai bayom ahu, I'm going to hide my face. There's going to be sila kashchina. You won't see me. You're going to suffer the consequence. You're going to feel that there's no divine protection. Oh, now you go write a Torah. Chavetz Chaim wondered, what in the world is the Smichas Parshas? What's the connection between God hiding his face, Hester Panim, and go write a Sefer Torah? The Chavetz Chaim said such a beautiful insight. He said, when you go into Galus and you're navigating the harshness of Galus, know that the only way to illuminate the road, the only way to know the derech, to be baderech, is the learning of Torah. Torah is what does it. And he describes the Chavetz Chaim. If you're in the darkness and you need to get out, you could have a sword, a knife, a gun. It's not going to help you cut the darkness. You can't see. You won't get to the other side. You can't shoot or slice or stab your way out of the darkness. The only way to get out of the darkness is to introduce a little light. And the little bit of light dispels a whole lot of darkness. So va'anochi haster astir, when I hide my face, No, the only way to navigate the darkness of that galus is illuminate the world with Torah. Ora zu Torah. Torah is light, and it is a light that lets us navigate the world. So that's the role and the goal of Torah. And that's why it's called the Gedola Shirazu, this great song of Hazinu, past, present, and future. It travels and it comes with us wherever we are, whenever we live. It informs, it inspires, and it lifts us. Zeh Hazinu Hashamayim v'adabera, sis shema haaretz imrei free, Kadosh Baruch Hu medaber mitoch hashamayim. The Almighty is speaking from the heavens. V'haaretz kula eina ela imrei fiv. And the whole earth is his mouthpiece. The whole world is telling his story. The rain, the dew, even the humidity, even the iguanas. We need a little cold spell to neutralize some of these iguanas. It's like the 11th plague. Hamatar v'atal hadesha v'esav kulam eina ela kriyas Hashem eleinu. The rustle of the leaves, the breeze, everything that's going on in the world. Soon, in other parts of the country and world, the leaves will change color. It's all singing the song of Hashem. But we're too busy looking down and scrolling and typing, and you don't even notice that there's a magnificent symphony and orchestra and harmony and song being sung the whole world all around us. So that's what you got to pay attention to be able to listen, to be able to hear. Hazinu Hashamayim, Hashem is speaking, the heavens are speaking. V'sishma haaretz, just listen to the earth. It's all being proclaimed from the earth. Okay, moving right along. Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Beis. Yarov kamatar likhi tizal katal imrasi kisirim alei desha v'chirvivim alei esav. May my teachings drop like rain, may my utterance flow like the dew, like storm winds upon vegetation, and like raindrops upon blades of grass. Again, beautiful poetry, but what does it mean? What is it saying? So here we turn to the Tefer Shmuel, still making our way through Shmuel Berenbaum, this magnificent Torah. He quotes Rashi, Yarov kamatar likhi Zuhi ha'edus, shetaidu shani omer b'fnechem Torah, shenasat l'Yisrael shichayim la'olam, kematar hazeh shuchayim la'olam. This is a metaphor. Rain, the dew, is a metaphor for Torah. The Torah I teach you is eternal and immortal. It lasts forever like rain. Just like the rain is chayei la'olam, the rain and its impact precipitates growth that lasts forever. So too Torah is forever. And what exactly is this metaphor of rain to Torah? We've spoken about this in the past when we learned the Parsha as well. We shared previously some beautiful interpretations. You can go back and find them. But I want to share with you the Tefer Shmuel. L'chori yesh lahavin, lama nimshel haTorah l'gshamim. Why is Torah likened to rain? V'alo yesh od dvarim shem chayim la'olam. There are other things that air. The air, there's always air. There's oxygen. Without it, the world wouldn't exist. We couldn't breathe. We wouldn't be here. So why not liken Torah to air? Why is Torah likened to rain? When it comes to the rain, it doesn't fall on a schedule. Unless you're in Florida in the summer, and then every single afternoon the sky will turn pitch black, the heavens will open, and it will pour, and then it'll turn blue again. But it's not predictable, and it's not scheduled, and it's not consistent. The rain comes and goes, and the rain we don't necessarily know for how long, or where, or when. You know why Torah is likened to rain? Listen to this beautiful insight. Because even though rain is unpredictable, and you can't control it, you can't make it start, you can't make it stop, and you don't know when it will come, and you don't know when it will leave. But even when it stops raining, the rain is continuing to have its impact. Why? Because the earth, the soil, absorbs the rain that fell, and now, by watering the ground, it stimulates, it is a catalyst, it begins a process of growth. The construction going on outside, if someone's building a building, only while they're building is the expansion taking place. Only when they're doing construction is there construction. The moment they stop building, the building ceases. Expansion ceases. It becomes stagnant, stationary. When you stop building and expanding, it stays the way it was. But that's not true when it comes to watering, when it comes to rain. Even when the rain stops falling, there's still stuff going on underground. There's the beginning of sprouting, of blossoming, of growth, of adding to greater growth. Torah, says Rav Berenbaum, the Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir Brooklyn. Similarly, someone who learns Torah nevelas b'socho. When you learn Torah, the Torah is absorbed in you like the rain or the water in the earth. So you'll say, I went to the Chumash Shir, I went to the Daf Yomi, I went to the Living with Emunah, but then I went to work, then I went to the gym, then I went to the supermarket. So then I wasn't learning anymore. No. Just like even after the rain stops, it's continuing to work underground. Even when you left the Shir, the Torah is bubbling up inside you. The Torah is causing that growth inside you. The Torah is moving things. It's stimulating, there's blossoming, there's growth. Now when you can eat differently. And when you sleep differently. And your conversations are different conversations. How are Talmidei Chachamim Mar b'Shalom? Torah scholars increase peace in the world, because when you take the principles and values of Torah to the world, to the marketplace, you now bring the lessons and the values of peace and harmony and love. And that's why our rabbis say even the casual conversation of a Torah scholar deserves to be learned. Because for the Torah scholar, there is no casual conversation. What sounds like casual conversation is also informed and inspired by Torah. Are Torahic. It's a Torahic conversation. And that's why man, in Parsha Shoftim we read, man is likened to a tree. Adam Eitz HaSadeh. Adam is gadol keseder limud Torah. So man is likened to a tree. We need to be watered, and we need to be protected, and we need some sunlight, and we need oxygen, all the elements that the tree needs to grow, we also need. But like the tree, even when the rain or the watering stops, the growth is still taking place. Sometimes it's just beginning. So that's the comparison. Beautiful. Rishon Berenbaum. Yaruf kamatar lichi, the connection, the comparison of Torah to rain is even after the rain stops falling, we continue to grow. We continue to grow. And that's why he goes on in this essay, he describes further. Okay, but we're going to go weiter. Rabbi Sachs also has a comment here. Rabbi Sachs, Yaruf kamatar lichi. We are invited to think of the Torah as being like the rain that waters the ground, so it brings forth produce. The Sifri puts it thus: may my teaching pour down like rain, just as the rain is one thing, yet it falls on trees, enabling each to produce tasty fruit according to the kind of tree it is, the vine in its way, the olive tree in its way, the date palm in its way, so the Torah is one. Yet its words yield Torah, Mishnah, Halacha, and Agadata. Like showers upon the grasses, just as showers fall upon plants and make them grow, some green, some red, some black, some white, so too the words of Torah produce teachers, worthy individuals, sages, the righteous and the pious. There is only one Torah, yet it has multiple effects. It gives rise to different kinds of teaching, different sorts of virtue. Torah is sometimes seen by its critics as overly prescriptive, as it sought to make everyone the same. The Medrash argues otherwise. The Torah is compared to rain precisely to emphasize that its most important effect is to make each of us grow into what we could become. As the Mishnah puts it, when a human being makes many coins from the same mint, they're all the same. God makes everyone in the same image, his image, yet none is the same as another. There is no single role model of the religious hero or heroine in Tanakh. The Avos and Imos each had their own unmistakable character. The kings and the Kohanim and the prophets had different roles to play. Even among the prophets, no two prophecy in the same style. Say Chazal, Sanhedrin. Eliyahu was zealous, Elisha gentle. Hosea speaks of love, Amos speaks of justice. Yeshayahu's visions are less opaque than those of Yechezkel. The same applies to the revelation at Sinai. Each individual heard in the same words a different inflection. Judaism, in short, says, out of the one, many. The miracle of creation is that unity in heaven produces diversity on earth. Torah is the rain that feeds this diversity, allowing each of us to become what only we can be. Wow. Beautiful, no? Why is Torah likened to rain? Because the rain falls equally everywhere. It's the same drops, same precipitation, same water, same rain. And yet, what the rain waters is diverse and different. Some flowers are red, and some flowers are green. Some are black, and some are white. Olives, and wheat, and dates, and pomegranates. The same rain, our same Torah is nurturing, it's creating growth from very diverse. I love this because this is the motto of our shul. Valuing diversity, celebrating unity. That one Torah, the singular Torah, Simchas Torah, we're going to celebrate in Mirz Hashem soon, dancing with that Torah and the joy of the gift and the blessing and the privilege of Torah. We all learn that one Torah. But there's so many interpretations and so many perspectives, and it nurtures each of us in our own way. So Torah doesn't demand uniformity, but expects unity. Torah recognizes and values diversity. It doesn't want divisiveness. So it's one singular Torah, but a Torah that yields unity, not uniformity. Okay, moving along. Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Daled. Hatzur tamim pa'alo ki chod racham mishpat. The rock, his work is whole, and all his ways are just. Kel emunah ve'ein avel. He's a God of faith who does no wrong. Tzaddik v'yasharhu. He is up and upright. Kel emunah ve'ein avel. What does that mean that he's a kel emunah? God of faith. That doesn't sound right. Who has faith in whom? How does faith work? Who has faith in whom? You're all looking at me. It's not a trick question. We have faith in God. God doesn't have faith. God is perfect, omnipotent. He is the creator, the source of all existence. We have faith in him. He doesn't have faith in us. Or does he? He does have faith in us. And that's what the Torah wants us to know. He does have faith in us. He believes in us. He created us. He is us. He put a piece of himself in us. We saw in Shabbos Shuvah. We learned from the Tzidkas HaTzadik, Rav Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin. Kishem, the same way a Jew has to have emunah that there's God, a Yid has to have emunah, has to have faith in themselves. Because if you think that God is God, but I'm worthless, insignificant, inconsequential, I don't mean or add anything, I don't believe in myself, I have no self-esteem, no self-worth, then you're denying God. Because God put a piece of himself in every human being. To disrespect, to dishonor, to disregard a human is to disrespect, dishonor, disregard the Almighty. There is a piece, a prominent piece, a powerful piece of Hashem in each and every one of us. He is us, the Tzelem Elokim in us. So we have faith in him, and he obligates us to not only believe and have faith in him, but to believe and have faith as an extension of him in us, in ourselves. And he believes in us. We say this every morning. God, your faith is great. God, your faith is great. Isn't Moda'ani about our faith in him? Yes. But also a reminder. If I woke up this morning, he believes in me. If I woke up this morning, I'm not done, I'm not finished yet. So Rabbi Sachs writes here, the rabbis of the first centuries of the Common Era communicated profound truths in a deceptively simple way. Commenting on this phrase, Kel Emunah, a God of faith, simply understood to mean he's faithful to his promises. Right? The simple understanding of Kel Emunah is he's faithful to his promises. If he promises to redeem us, he'll redeem us. If he promises to punish us, he'll punish us. He's reliable and trustworthy and he follows through. He's faithful. He's Kel Emunah. But they said, Chazal said in the Sifri, this means the God who had faith in the world he was about to create. In that sentence lies an extraordinary suggestion of the risk God took when he made mankind. Biblical faith, with its emphasis on free will and responsibility, constantly holds before us the paradox of human history. There are times when we scale the heights of goodness, but there are others when we descend to the depths of evil. Modern thought is focused on the wrong question. It is asked how God could have created nature. The rabbis posed a question altogether more profound. How could God have created man? It's one thing to believe that God in his goodness made the universe. It's another to believe that God in his goodness made a form of life, Homo sapiens, capable of inflicting untold cruelty and suffering on its own members. The Torah says before the flood, Contemplating the violence that filled the world, Hashem regretted, Vayanachem. He regretted that he had made man on earth and that his heart was touched with sorrow. After Auschwitz, that verse echoes with almost unbearable pathos. That verse echoes unbearably that God regretted what he had done by making man on earth. After Auschwitz, after October 7th, the rabbis gave a remarkable answer. Creation testifies not merely to God's power, but also, as it were, to his belief in mankind. At the heart of religion is not just the faith we have in God, no less significant is the faith God has in us. That faith is surely often tested. It is tested when we turn our back on God. It is tested no less when we commit evil in his name. Yet he does not lose faith that one day we will learn this. The God, lover of people, has given us many universes of faith, but only one world in which to live together. The grant of freedom to humanity was an immense act of self-limitation on the part of God. What the Lurianic Kabbalah calls tzimtzum. Hashem is faith in man. That faith is often abused, not to say betrayed, yet God still infinite patience. Through human being inflict suffering on one another, Hashem does not give up on his creation. However corrupt we are, he does not relinquish the faith that we will change. However lost, he does not cease to believe that one day we will find our way back. More than we search for God, God searches for us, asking us, as he did to Adam, Ayeka, where are you? Sifri's comment is profound. Creation, even God's creation, when it involved endowing a creature with the capacity to act in freedom, involves risk and therefore faith. Kel Emunah, God of faith, means who had faith in the universe and created it. I know of no lovelier account of the how often unlovely human condition. Talk about poetry. Rabbi Sachs's commentary is poetry. But what a beautiful description. Kel Emunah means by constantly renewing the contract of creation, the fact that the world is still here and ongoing and that we are in it is itself an expression of Hashem's faith in humanity, that we are worthy and we are worth continuing this experiment called existence. And yes, we have setbacks. We violate that faith. There is infidelity, but we can come back. And it's so powerful that we read this and we're learning this now. On the precipice of Yom Kippur, Kel Emunah, he has faith in us. And he gives us the reset button called Yom Kippur. And he says, maybe you were unfaithful this year, but I have faith that you can come back. How many times can we violate or neglect in a human relationship? How much infidelity, unfaithfulness, literally, figuratively, emotionally, monetarily, in so many different ways, friendship and in marriage. How many times will someone welcome the other back? But Hashem, every year of your life. There's no point at which he says, yeah, that's enough. I've given you too many chances. You can be celebrating your 105th Yom Kippur, and he says, let's do it again. I have faith. This is your year. 104 times you proved unfaithful. No. I still have faith in you. I still have faith in you. Isn't that powerful? Isn't that empowering to know going into Yom Kippur? He has faith in us. So we should have faith in ourselves. He is a Kel Emunah. He maintains and he still has that faith. Perek Lamed Beis Pasuk Hey. Shiches lo vanav mumam dor ikesh upsaltol. Corruption is not his. The blemish is his children. A perverse and twisted generation. Now you understand why I said, why is this called a song? It's a pretty harsh song. The whole blemish is his children's, a perverse and twisted generation, which might be a very accurate name or description of our generation. But anyway, back to the Eish Tamid, back to Rav Druk. So Rav Druk says, quotes Rashi, Banav mumam, the blemish is his children's. Banav hayu, v'shchisam she'eschhisu himumam, dor ikesh, akum u'meukal. Chavetz Chaim Pirush al Torah Kasod Davar Nifla. Rav Druk quotes the Chavetz Chaim. Chavetz Chaim says a wondrous thing. B'pasuk zeh yishlimud gadol v'atzon shemaisa avasim labanim. Ala av ha'chol v'ladaktek b'mitzvos b'yisron ha'chasher. V'lilu entos yamin usmal afilu lo nima. Ki im yivater ha'av al eza mitzvah kala. Yomar haben levater al mitzvah yoser chamura. You see the responsibility of a parent to model for a child. Because if the parent is lax or lenient or casual, even of something small, then the child will go off the path and neglects something much bigger. And that's shiches. Ima'av ba'atzma shiches ma'at lo lo. Again, read it inside. Shiches lo vanav mumam. Corruption is not his, the blemish is his children's. He's reading lo la'atzma in nechshav in the gedolos of a ban of mumam. B'shvil abanam lamum gadol yechashev. If he neglects even a small thing, you won't register on the Richter scale. But banav mumam, when he sees in his children more, I once, a man not connected to our shuls, goes back many, many years. I was assistant rabbi at the time, asked to meet with me because his child was dating a non-Jew. And of course he was terribly disappointed, upset, livid, tried everything he could to intervene, to intercede, and he couldn't convince the child. Excuse me. He asked me as a last-ditch effort to meet with the child, which I did. I met with the two of them. And he described his dismay, and she described why she fell in love with this boy, who'd make a wonderful husband and a great father, and that her own father wasn't particularly observant himself. So why should she make such a supreme sacrifice? It was my turn to speak. And I turned to the father and I said, I hear her. I don't blame her. You're not willing to give up your Saturdays or a cheeseburger, but she should give up the love of her life? She grew up watching and witnessing. She grew up observing that I'm not talking about somebody who wasn't educated, didn't know better, didn't know more, didn't have role models. You did, and you've chosen to be casual, lenient, lax, to dismiss, to view halacha as a list of suggestions rather than obligations. You've ordered from the Torah like a buffet off its menu. And she grew up in that atmosphere. So is it surprising for her that if her father's not willing to give up relatively small sacrifices, she should give up a supreme one? I hear her. You're to blame. You're angry at her? Here's a mirror. Then I turned to her, I said, well, you're not off the hook. And then we talked about a link in the chain and the Jewish people and why our story matters. We talked about this a few weeks ago, formulating an answer to that question of why be Jewish. And we had that conversation. I didn't do it to beat the father up or fill him with guilt and shame, a little bit. But I did it because I said to the two of them, why don't you go on a journey together? Why don't you consider, Father, demonstrating you're willing to make sacrifices, small and large, before you turn to your daughter and ask her to reconsider making a big one? And why don't you become an educated consumer? Why don't you live and learn and observe and practice before you decide? And that's what this pasuk, that's what the Chofetz Chaim is teaching, is explaining this pasuk. Shiches lo. It won't destroy you if you're casual and lax about little things that, not this father who wasn't doing anything. Okay, so you didn't, whatever the case is, but banav mumam. But it'll show in the children. The blemish will show up in the children. And we see it in our time. It used to be that we could rely on social pressure for Jews to remain observant. You'll never marry out, and you'll still keep Shabbos because there's a societal, a social pressure, but those days are over. Those days are over. The world is welcoming and filled with opportunity and invitation. And there's no longer inhibition. There's no longer shame. And it's so easy to drop out. And there are some of the most passionate, practicing, incredible parents, and their children don't stay with the program. And there are parents who are terribly casual and lax, and their children are on fire. So I say this not for anyone to beat themselves up. I say this not because we can directly correlate or blame. I just say it because if you want to know what's going to give you the best odds for having children who are on fire, is to be on fire yourself. What statistically will give you the greatest probability and likelihood of having children who are part of the program is to be the most practicing, the most passionate that you could be. Because shiches lo, maybe if I go to Shul on Shabbos, not during the week, I come late, not on time, I talk a little bit, I'm not quiet, I eat kosher, I don't remember to make brachos, this is kosher enough, that symbol I think is pretty good, I didn't really check out the Pesach program we're going to. If you're lax, it won't necessarily show up in you, But in the children and grandchildren who see an atmosphere where it's not worth making sacrifices for, then banav mumam, it's going to show up in a much more directed way. And Rav Druk goes on and describes this. He quotes the Griz, Nachlas Hashem Banim, Schar Pri Batan. He has much longer, but I want to move on to other ideas. Perek Lamed Vez Pasuk Vav. Hal Hashem tigmuluzos. We're going to turn the page, but not yet. Hal Hashem tigmuluzos. Is it to Hashem that you do this? Am naval v'lo chacham, O vile and unwise people. Halahu avicha kanecha. He's your father. He is your master. Hu ascha v'yechonenecha. Has he not created you and formed you? So again, this is a shira. What kind of a song is this? So far we've been called a perverse and twisted generation, O vile and unwise people. Some song, huh? Some song. But is he not your father and your master? Didn't he create you? Didn't he mold you? And didn't he shape you? So here we turn to another Tifer Shmuel. Says Rav Shmuel Berenbaum, Hatayna Gdola B'Yosa Shemisha Over Aveira. Hala Hashem Halahu Avicha. Isn't he your father? How could you do this? Isn't he your tati? Isn't he your father? What do you see from here, says Rav Shmuel Berenbaum? Hatayna Hagdola B'Yoser. The biggest claim, Misha over Aveira. You did something wrong, you made a mistake, you violated transgression. Did you even think about your father? When you did that thing, did you even consider or think about how it would impact and disappoint your father? Atrach nicht von der Tata, shu avicha konecha, כמו שכתוב לגבי בas Kohen shezinsa, she'atorah achmir aleh ba'onesh treifa. The daughter of a Kohen who's promiscuous, the Torah says she gets the strictest of the capital punishments. She gets sreifa instead of chenek. Because the Torah Parsha Zemor says, this Bas Kohen, this royalty, this princess, this young lady of distinction and prominence, who is a Bas Kohen, she should walk around. If you're a Kohen, you should raise your daughters to know they're a Bas Kohen. You know who I am? I'm a Bas Kohen. And she went ahead and carried and dressed and acted and was promiscuous. As Aviyah hi mechalalas. She violated her father's honor and dignity. Rashi there says, Omrim al Aviyah ru'u gidulam shegidaltem. They say about her father, they turned to the Kohen and they said, this is your daughter? Hey Kohen, this is your daughter? There was a syndrome called the rabbi's daughter syndrome. Won't get into this right now. Lo aleinu. Baruch Hashem, I have tremendous nachas from my daughters. Lo aleinu. There is a syndrome, rabbi's children. A lot of rabbis' children give them amazing nachas, and they are superstars. And a lot of rabbis, a lot of famous and prominent and great rabbis have children, not so pashut, because it's complicated to grow up with that sense of responsibility, with that title, with that status. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. I don't know. I tell my children that this is one way. I was once a kid. I can relate to them being a kid. I was never a rabbi's kid. I have absolutely no idea what it's like to be a rabbi's kid. And I have tremendous sympathy and empathy because it's not so simple. One of my children was describing to me recently, in school, when the teacher asks a question, if you raise your hand and you knew the answer, so for the other kids, you're the rabbi's kid. If you didn't know the answer, you're called on. How could you not know the answer? You're the rabbi's kid. It isn't easy. It isn't easy. So, but the Torah says, we're all Hashem's child. If a person is tempted considering to sin, they should think this is one of the strategies to overcome it. Hal Hashem tigmulizos? Are you going to do this to your father? Do you know what it would do to your father? There are people that it's very powerful. They're ready to dress a certain way, conduct themselves a certain way, make certain life decisions. And they say, I couldn't do that to my parents. You know what? It doesn't speak to me. I'm not internally motivated, but I can't do that to my parents. We should all feel it. We can't do that to our father. Hal Hashem tigmulizos? Hashem says, after everything I do for you like a father, and I love you as a father, you're going to violate Hashem just like as Aviyah hi mechalalas achil Hashem. And therefore, the Torah says, Hu avicha konecha. He's your father. Before you do that thing, before you bring him shame, before you make that mistake, before you act out in that way, ask yourself, what is that going to do to your father? How could you bring that shame? How could you give that pain to your very father? The opposite is also true. If you act with great honor and distinction, you bring a great Kiddush Hashem. You bring great honor to Hashem's name. As the Gemara Yuma Daf Pevav famously says, if you're a Talmid Chacham, if you learn and you grow and you represent Hashem and you go out and you're kind and you're courteous and you're thoughtful and you're honest, people say, wow, look at Torah. Ashri Abav Shalom the Torah, Ashri Rabba Shalom the Torah. And if you're the opposite, you wear that yarmulke on your head, you're visibly Jewish, and now you're discourteous, you're rude, you're dishonest, you don't have those honest weights and measures, people say, Oyla Abav Shalom the Torah, Oyla Rabba Shalom the Torah. So people associate our behavior with our father, with our teacher. We don't just carry the responsibility of our own reputation. Every one of us carry the responsibility of the reputation of our parents and our grandparents. Is that fair or unfair? It doesn't matter. It's true. It's a reality. So one of the ways to inspire and motivate ourselves is to remember that we bear the responsibility for the reputation not only of ourselves, but of our parents, and among those parents, namely Kodesh Baruch Hu as well. Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Lamed Hey. Uwah, flying now. We're skipping pages. All the way to 1106. Lamed Hey. Li nakam v'shilem, le'es tamut raglam, ki karov yom edam v'chash asidos lamo. Says the Torah, mine is vengeance and retribution at the time their foot will falter. The day their catastrophe is near and future events are rushing at them. When Hashem will judge his people. And here it goes on and says this in several ways. Right? Beginning with, Li nakam. That word nakam means revenge. Go to Pasuk Mem Aleph. Shanosi barak charbi, v'sochez b'mishpat yadi, ashiv nakam l'tzarai, u'l'misanai ashalem. Nakam means revenge. Pasuk Mem Gimel. Harninu goyim amo, O nations sing praise, kidam avadav yikom, v'da v'nakam yashiv l'tzara v'chiper ad maso amo. Should be familiar to us, this pasuk. Avarachamim. O nations sing the praise of his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants. He'll bring retribution upon his enemies. He'll appease his land and his people. Over and over and over again, we see a reference to Hashem taking revenge. A vengeful God. A vengeful God. So Rabbi Sachs, this is our last Rabbi Sachs of the day. Rabbi Sachs says, what's going on over here? We're describing over and over again, God takes revenge. All of Avarachamim. The whole tefillah we say Shabbos morning, written for the martyrs of the crusade. We've not omitted it the last 2 years, even when we ordinarily would, like benching Rosh Chodesh, where Rabbi Shechter has said we should continue to say it because they're continued nebuch to be martyrs of this war. So written for the martyrs of the crusade, relevant to the martyrs of the war of the last 2 years. And in it we say over and over and over again, Hashem, revenge, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, Qatar, France, England, South Africa, Australia. There's not enough room left in our siddur. How many we have to add to the list of who Hashem should take revenge against? Who he has to take revenge against? So what's with all this revenge? Doesn't the Torah say, Lo sikom v'lo sitor? Doesn't the Torah forbid? Isn't one of the 613 commandments that you're not allowed to take revenge? We've given a whole shir on this. It's a topic. There's many sources. Does God take revenge, not revenge? Are we for revenge, not for revenge? You know? In yesterday's announcement about this potential please God deal, so one of the things favorable for Hamas, it's hard to believe, is the immunity. Anyone who wants to leave Gaza will be allowed. Will we, like the Munich massacre many years from now, hunt them down wherever they are? I don't know. I hope. Because there is an element of we want to. And here the Torah is describing God at revenge over and over again. But it says, Lo sikom v'lo sitor. So here Rabbi Sachs weighs in. Hashem commands forgiveness as Yosef forgave his brothers. And as we on Judaism's holiest day ask him to forgive us, Yom Kippur. To quote Rambam, as long as one nurses a grievance and keeps it in mind, one may come to take revenge. Torah therefore emphatically warns us not to bear a grudge, so that the impression of the wrong shall be wholly obliterated and no longer remembered. This is the right principle. It alone makes a society and human interaction possible. Hilchos Deos Perek Zayin. Note, Rambam means in a general rule for humanity, not limited to Jews. Yet, this Parsha contains lines such as, he'll avenge his servant's blood, difficult to reconcile with an ethic of non-revenge. So which is it? I think of the Jews of the Middle Ages who saw their fellow Jews accused of killing Christian children to drink their blood, of poisoning wells, of desecrating the host and spreading the plague, and then murdered en masse in the name of the God of love. We can still hear their response. They're recorded for us in many of the kinos. We say on the 9th of Av, yes, they appealed to God's vengeance, which is to say to God's justice. But Jews did not seek to take vengeance. That is something you leave to God. There's a justice we will not see this side of the end of days. In the meantime, it is sufficient to live an affirm life and seek no more than the right to be true to your faith without fear, no more than the right to live and defend that self-same right for your children. Yet we seek justice and we fight for justice, but the search for the perfect justice is not for us here and now. It is, as Moshe taught the Jewish people in the great song he sang at the end of his life, something that faith demands we leave to God, who alone knows the human heart, who alone knows what is just in the world of conflicting claims, and who will establish and perfect justice at a time and in a way of his choosing, but not ours. So, vengeance is forbidden for us, but we call upon it for him, because that's a reminder, maybe a harsh one, maybe a difficult one to swallow, maybe a painful one, but it's a reminder that we deserve to fight and defend ourselves. We deserve to live in safety and security. But revenge, we leave that to Hashem. Does it feel unfair? Terribly, terribly. But that's how the Torah prescribes it. And I read that this morning, and it gave me solace after yesterday, because it is a bitter, bitter pill to swallow. To not be able to take revenge, to eliminate the horrific, evil, wicked terrorists who perpetrated this atrocity, to release some of those who previously had. It's unbearably painful and unfair and unjust. So it's a reminder. It's a reminder that HaKadosh Baruch Hu ultimately is the arbiter of justice and revenge, and we call upon him to take it. Let them all die of natural deaths. Let them all suffer from rockets blowing up in their faces. If he wants, he can. And we call upon him to do it. And even when we have to stop short of doing it ourselves, even when we have to agree to an unfair and unjust deal, that's part of the way the Torah prescribed and prophesied what is going to be. Perek Lamed Beis Pasuk Mem Daled. I'll just raise for you something fascinating. The Torah here at the very end, by Avo Moshe v'Diber es kol divrei ashir azos ba'oznei ha'am, Moshe spoke all the song in the ears of the people, and included among them the Hoshea bin Nun. What happened? What are we calling him again? Hoshea. He lost the Yud. Hoshea became Yehoshua when he was going to spy with the Meraglim, and he got demoted. He lost the Yud. He became Hoshea. What happened over here? Rashi tells us what happened. Moshe made a Maturgaman. Shedorsh b'chayv k'dei shel yom Yisrael b'chayach harav chol lama kor kon Yoshua lama shelo zacha daito alav af api shenas lo gedula hishbal atzmo kasher mitchilaso. Says Rashi, Torah wants us to know that we watched Yoshua go from a young lad, an apprentice, the assistant rabbi, and he's about to become the senior rabbi. And you should know that Moshe is retiring and passing the mantle, and his assistant rabbi is about to become the rabbi. That senior rabbi is still the same as he was when he was the rabbinic intern. It never went to his head, even though he went from the kolal guy to the intern to the assistant to the associate to the rabbi. We call him Hoshea at the end so that you know that he never stopped being the original person he was. He remained modest and humble. But the Kli Yakar has another interpretation. Listen to this Kli Yakar. Shelo karo Yoshua ki im Hashem ka Yoshiacha me'atzas meraglim because man she'echem and also dor hayakayim hayinikar b'shem Yoshua v'kasher tam kol adorahu lo hayamakom l'tfilah zu. Why was he called Yoshua? Because let he not fall prey to the persuasion of the meraglim. So he gave the name Yud, which is the name of Hashem, so he'd have extra confidence. Don't be affected. Says the Kli Yakar. That was not a permanent name change. It was temporary. Only while there was anyone alive from the generation of the spies did Yoshua still need the Yud at the beginning of his name. But now at the end of Moshe's life, that entire generation has died. There's nobody left who was alive at the time of the episode of the spies, and therefore he no longer needs the Yud in his name, and he reverts back to his original name. He's now Hosea. It's a wild kliyakar. But Rav Druk learns from this kliyakar, you see the power. L'lamedcha, kama harsanisa ashpa ra la'adam asher hutzach Moshe l'spal Yoshua b'meshach 40 shana. I don't understand. They overcame. Okay, at the episode of the spies, they cried at night. They didn't have to bother crying. They cried when they didn't have to. For 40 years, he kept davening for Yoshua. The Yud was the beginning of his name, means that for 40 years, Moshe didn't stop davening. Let Yoshua not be affected. You see the power of peer pressure. You see how easy it is to fall prey. So much so, never stop worrying about your children. Don't say, well, they're out of middle school. They're out of high school. They got through yeshiva. They're an adult. They're living in a community. The power of peer pressure, the vulnerability of still being persuaded, can never stop davening. Moshe didn't stop davening all 40 years, only when the last of the ones who could have negatively impacted Yoshua, only when the last one wasn't here, only then could he let go of the Yud, and he went back to Hosea. But until then, Moshe continued to daven. You see that power. Wishing everyone a Gemar Chasim Tova, good Gebench Jor. We are off next week. Take a break for Sukkot, and we are back after Sukkot. But tomorrow we are on Tanya and Amuna as usual Wednesday morning. So join us for learning. Gemar Chasim Tova, good Gebench Jor. Mirz Hashem, by the time we're back, the hostages will be home and our soldiers will be safe and sound. We'll be on our way to the historic peace that we hope and pray is to come.